Hi, this is Lisa from Lisa's Sewing Shop. Tonight we're trying something new. I haven't done this before, so I'm creating basically a new pattern for this. So the first thing I did was I took some leftover jean material that I cut off the bottom of a pant leg. And you can see on here, there is the hem on the bottom. There is a heavy duty double sewn seam, and then there's the regular seam. I cut those off, okay? Then, that left me with this material. On the front, I knew that I wanted the name of my sewing shop business. So I took this scrap of cotton material, folded it over twice, and right here where you can see where I cut it out, I actually sewed on my machine, Lisa's Sewing Shop, turned it under around the edge and stitched it. So we now have this. And by the way, those are 9mm high stitches that I used on that. So then that left me with this. This was the scrap that I had left. No, it was not perfectly level. You can see where I drew the lines on here. This is the inside leg seam that I left on here because it's not real heavy. So this is my little book I wanted to make a cover for. And this is one that what I did was I laid it on here and I just kind of measured it out to see what I needed. So I took the back side here and I folded it over so I knew that that would fit. Then I took this side and folded it over so I knew that would fit. I turned these down on the ends a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to top stitch those. That'll hold that in place. Now when my little book has its cover on it, you can see, and let me just, it'll be looking like this, except we're going to make seams on the ends that cover that. And then my sewing shop label is going to go here. So that's what we're making tonight. So let me give you a couple of measurements here. This piece of fabric is 16.5 inches long. My little notebook that I'm making the cover for is right about 4 inches by 4 inches. Got it at the dollar store for $1. So you can see where that folds in. Here's where I press the folds. I've got my little portable iron here. And there's my other one I pressed in. So you can see how that's going to cover. That binder right here on the book is what's going to be right there in the middle. So I wanted to show you how that was going to fit. So then what I did was I took my tailor's chalk, I drew on here where the folds needed to be. I drew on here where I needed to stitch. Now you can see where I cut these pant legs off, this was not real even. So my tailor's chalk is the straight line that I need to sew on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch on both ends. As soon as I get that done, I'll be back with you and I'm going to show you how we're going to make these seams on both sides. Okay, so here you can see where I've top stitched both ends, and I am using gold metallic thread on this just to kind of decorate this up a little bit. Now remember, I have these tailor chalk marks over here. Turn this with the back side down, turn this over so that right there where we had that fold, that is where we need to fold this up. I'm going to pull my pressing mat over here, and right there on that tailor's truck fold, let me make sure I've got this lined up here correctly. I'm matching up my tailor's chalk marks on the other side. Now let me press this down a little bit because I want to make sure it stays right where we intend for it to be. Now let's do the same thing to the other side. Here's the tailor's chalk fold there. Let's see if we can match this one up. I think we've got it. Now I'm also looking here to make sure these two inside edges are level, because remember, this fabric was not completely square when we started. So we need to know what we're doing. Okay, now I'm going to flip this over because this seam right here that's in that was in the inside of the leg, I want it to lay down really good. So I'm going to press it over to the side just so it stays where I want it to stay. And I'm going to press down and press that really good so that when I sew these side seams and I sew over that, it's going to lay down. Right there's where we're going. So let me get these sewed real quick and I'll be right back. Let's look at this real quick. This is the back cover of the book. You can see where I sewed that down. We'll trim off our threads, and then this I will do some extra trimming right here because I don't want the bulk of this showing. So I will show you how to do that in a minute. But before we sew this side, because this is going to be the front cover, this is where I want to measure and see where my name label needs to be sewn on here before we turn this over. So let me do some measuring real quick and I'll be right back to show you. So I want to show you part of this so you can see how I'm laying this out. So this is the back flap of my little notebook. You can see what that looks like. And it does need pressed. I have not pressed that yet. But you can see how that looks now that it's sewn. This right here I have not sewn yet. But this is the front. So this square right here is where my label that has the name of my shop is going to be located. So I'm going to place this diagonal right on where my little notebook's going to be, and I'm going to sew this on here first before I sew up the other flap. So let me get this top stitched right around the edge, right where I already top stitched. We're just going to do it right on top of that one, and then this one will be in place, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so let me scoot this up here close so you can see. You can see where I top stitched around the edge. That held that in place on that front cover. Now I'm going to turn this over just like we just had it. And we're going to put it right there on that tailor's mark on the fold. Center this up just like we had it. And then I'm going to sew on the sides so that we have this side, which is the front cover, ready to slide on. Then we'll tack down the edges where the binder right here in the middle of the book will go. So I'll be right back. Okay, now you can see that I have the side seams sewed and on both sides. And what I wanted to show you is what I already did on the back half. I cut the corners off without cutting the thread. Then I come down here and I cut this off right to the edge of where I stitched, and then I cut the other way. You can see how that's like a little square there. That takes the bulk fabric out of the sides. Now let me do the same thing over here. There we go. Now, then we can turn this right side out, and these corners will poke out very nicely. Let me get both of those turned around here. Let me get my scraps down and out of the way. Now you can see where the front of this is going to be and where the back of this is going to be. Now, you'll notice I don't have the little parts where the binder's going to go in there done yet. That's next. So what I wanted to do was get this all turned right side out. I want to press everything really good. And then we'll come back and tack all of this middle part where the binder is going to be down. So let me get all of this finished up, and then I'll come back and show you what I've got. So now I have, this is the right side pressed. This is where the flaps of the cover of the little notebook are going to go. Now I'm going to, right here in the middle, top stitch this down just like I did here on the edge. So I'll back stitch, top stitch, back stitch on both sides to hold all of that down. I'll be right back. So we've got our top stitching here and here. That's what it looks like on this side. So now, since this is my front cover, this is the back, we're going to take these covers and slide them in here. This one goes in the back side. Let me get this in here started. Here we go. Hold on here. There we go. Okay, so that's slid on very nicely. You can see it's the right size. Now I'm going to do the front. And we'll tuck that down in there. Put that on the front side. Now, you can see my binder is right here in the middle. So when I close this, now you can see what my little notebook looks like. This makes a great gift idea for someone you know. Ladies Fellowship, good notebook idea. Notes for one of the kids at school, good notebook idea. Just to keep notes in your purse, good notebook idea. So, very inexpensive. I used leftovers. I did use thread that I already had in stock. So, other than the $1 I paid for the little notebook at the dollar store, I didn't pay anything else for this. So that would be a good gift idea anytime throughout the year. You can change colors, change designs to fit the season. So, hope that gives you an idea. Talk to you guys later.